thoughts on student-teacher relationships. So my personal opinion is that a teacher can safeguard themselves from a lot of these issues if you just remember that you're here because you have a job. Your job is to teach students. You're not here so you can make 75 new friends every year, right? And so you need to consider yourself a professional here, working with underage youth, and they're not here to be your new social clique. They're here because they need to learn stuff so that they can get out here and fulfill their goals and dreams, and you're here to help them do that. So no, I don't talk with students on social media. I don't talk to them outside of school unless they graduated and I run into them somewhere. And I just kind of consider myself their teacher while they're in this building.
Coming to the district is listen and ask. If you're not sure, make sure you ask.
Yeah.
And when dealing with a student, get to know them, figure out why they're the way they are. Whether it's they're acting out for a reason, because there's usually always a reason. And the more in tune you are with the students, then the better that they are going to trust you and make you ask.
Would you say you want to set boundaries right off the bat?
Yeah, definitely set boundaries.
Okay. Good.
Because with those boundaries, they need to make sure that they understand that they can come to you if they have a problem, but they also need to know that you're not their friend.
Okay.
You'll be their mentor, you'll be their not necessarily counselor, but if they, someone to bounce ideas off of, but we're not here to
Right. Now with today, with the social media the way it is, how do you feel about the social media connection other than the school email? Zero or shouldn't at all?
You're looking at someone, I don't Twitter, there's no tweeting, there's no Snapchatting. I do have Facebook. I think that it can be a really good thing. We have a CTA Facebook page, and we get a lot of really good information on that. But I don't know, this generation is put it all out there, and there's some stuff wrong with private.
What do you think about student-teacher relationships outside of school?
That's a hard one because it depends on the situation. I have, if you have a child in the district, and obviously you're going to have his friends over, and you may take on a more parent role with that.
Okay.
You don't ever want to put yourself in a position where your actions are questionable. Mr. Kocha has said more than once, don't put your career in the hands of a child.
It's pretty well there where it's
Right. When things going on, what could be innocent may not be construed as innocent. So.
Well, that's all the questions, so.
Okay.
Alright, so what are your thoughts on student and teacher relationships? What are some of the boundaries that you give advice to new teachers coming in? What boundaries do you set?
Well, with little kids, it's different than with older kids,
Right.
but
Elementary.
right. I often encourage student teachers to make sure if they're hugging them that they hug them to the side rather than at the front, but to make sure to still hug them. We have a lot of little people that need to be hugged, so that's a tough one when you're down here with the little kids.
Good. So what about when you're out and about after school? Do you ever see some of your students?
Yes, all the time. They see me at the grocery store. They're surprised I go to the grocery store.
It's kind of weird sometimes. That shit.
Little kids are just different than bigger
Right.
kids, though, but I think it probably starts there, so you have to be careful.
Okay. What about social media?
That's tough. I think it's perfectly okay because, and let me tell you why, I think when it's public, that when people can see it, it may be a little bit safer than, something that's behind the scenes. So I don't have a problem with students contacting teachers via social media if it's like on a Facebook post where other people can see it.
Okay. What about what advice could you give towards high school or middle school?
Teachers,
Yeah.
just be transparent. Anything you do, make sure you include parents in it. Anything you would do with kids, keep your doors open. Anything that you would say to a student or either via social media or in person, make sure you wouldn't say it without maybe your principal standing there.
Okay. What would you consider inappropriate? I mean, I think we already talked about side hugging, but
That really is different for different kids because we have some kids that have some backgrounds of abuse, and you have to be extra careful with that. I'd say err on the side of the child. If you, that's always good advice, to err on the side of the student. Be cautious because you don't know what most kids have been through.
right. What kind of relationship do you want to establish with them?
With these little people, it's more of a parent-child relationship.
You are with them more than
Right, and yeah, throughout the day, we're with them more than their parents are. With older kids, I think it would be depending on the age of the teacher sometimes. Sometimes it's a parent-child relationship. Sometimes it is more like an older sibling,
Yeah.
hopefully, or a mentor kind of relationship.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that's it.
And
So what do you think is the problem with social media?
Well, of course, there is the issue of parents not liking the idea of their children being friends with school employees or with teachers. And then, there's the whole, sometimes more personal things are said on social media that probably is not good for student ears. It might kind of change the way a student thinks of a teacher if they know more of the personal aspects. So
Yeah.
I can see where it would be a problem.
So what do you think a good student-teacher relationship would be? What's almost too far for you, or what?
I kind of have a problem with that because I actually, as a mom, I like the idea of being able to be friends with my son's friends on social media, such as Facebook and that kind of thing. So it's really hard for me to separate that, mom versus teacher thing.
Yeah.
Because I know that technically according to our school rules, I'm not supposed to be friends on Facebook with those kids. But then the mom in me thinks, I've seen these kids grow up, I consider them friends. So that's kind of a hard one for me to separate that boundary.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I think almost maybe these laws are almost too much for teachers, or do you think these laws are getting better for it, or is it almost making it harder to be a good teacher?
I personally think that it kind of steps on our freedom of speech and that kind of thing, And I know that there are always going to be those cases out there where a teacher takes it too far, and that's going to hurt it for everybody. But at the same time, I think that I think that maybe some of these laws are going a little bit too far.
Yeah. Okay, so if you had any advice to give new teachers, what would it be?
I think just use your head, be smart about it. If there's this giant red flag, and you really have to stop and hesitate, then don't do it. Always be on the safe side. But at the same time, especially if you're a parent or something, and it's a really good friend of your child or even a family member, something like that just happens to be in school, use your brain about it and just be smart.
All right, I think that's all we got.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're
Look at him.
Okay.
Yeah. Gosh.
Look in the camera.
Tell me when.
We're good.
So, Mr. J, what do you think is too far for student-teacher relationships? Or what's some advice you could give to a brand new teacher coming in, since you're real brand new?
Sure. I think it's important to build a relationship with your student, only on the educational purpose. I try to talk to them a little bit about their personal life, just so I can get to know them. That helps in the classroom. In case of kids struggling, I can kind of figure out why because of his family life. But I don't want to take it too far. I don't want to be seen with my students outside of school. I want to be where someone is around me at all times so that I can have my back covered at all times.
Good. What do you feel about with social media since you're a high school teacher?
I think high school students take social media too far. They post about everything on there. They don't think before they put it on there. A lot of times they can ruin their lives because of what they put on there. Seen a lot of fights, things like that happen because of people posting on Facebook.
Okay. So are you friends with high schoolers on?
No, I am not friends with students. I don't think that
It's a
should.
law now.
Yeah, I don't think that should be done.
You already answered outside of school. What about beyond the classroom? After school, before school? I mean, trips. I know we go on a lot of trips.
Yeah, like I said, I try to make sure it's not just me and one other student. If it's just me and one other guy, that's all right. But I definitely don't put myself out there where I'm with a girl by myself.
Right.
That'll put myself in trouble. Anything can be said, and unfortunately, the student always wins in cases like that. Of course, I go on trips all the time. Luckily for me, there's 2 teachers.
Right.
So if there's a girl going, I can have Miss Chapman go with me.
All right. What kind of boundaries do you set? Like when you come in, I mean, what kind of boundaries did you guys set with the students?
Yeah, I knew right off the bat that I needed to build a relationship with the students because I was brand new. The teacher here before me had a good relationship with the students. They liked him. So what I try to do is I just spent the first couple of days getting to know the students. I did a questionnaire, threw a ball around, asked questions. That way they could get to know me. And then I done a PowerPoint that explained who I was because they had no idea who I was.
That's pretty good. All right. You good?
Thank you.